There's something you use every single day, probably dozens of times a day, but you almost never actually see it. We're talking about rare earth elements, and they are the hidden, absolutely essential ingredients that power our modern lives. So let's dig in and find out why these invisible materials are shaping our entire future. So, let me just start with a question for you. What's the invisible thread that connects the smartphone in your hand, a super advanced fighter jet, and the entire future of global power? Well, you probably guessed it. It's a group of 17 metals that have quietly become some of the most strategic, most fought over resources on the planet. All right, here's what we're going to cover in this explainer. We'll start with what these critical minerals are. Then we'll unpack America's really unique supply chain problem. We're going to map out who's digging them up around the world, see how they go from just rocks into your tech, and finally take a look at the global race to lock these things down for the future. Okay, first up, let's get into what makes these minerals so incredibly critical. And you gotta understand, this isn't just a story about geology. Oh no, this is about geopolitics and some very, very high stakes global strategy. So, what are we even talking about here? Well, the name rare earth elements is honestly a little misleading. These 17 metals aren't actually all that rare in the ground. The real trick, the challenge, is finding them all bunched together in a spot where it's actually cheap enough to mine them. That scarcity, the economic scarcity, is what makes them so vital.
And their strategic value can definitely be used as a weapon. I mean, just imagine a hypothetical situation like this one. In April, a huge supplier tightens its export rules. Then, by October, they add even more to the list. But then, in November, they suddenly suspend the new rules, but they keep the old ones in place. You see, that kind of whiplash isn't just business. It's a power move. It sends a shockwave of uncertainty through the rest of the world.
All right, let's move on and see how this all feeds into America's supply chain challenge. It's a really fascinating story, and you can tell it with just a few key numbers. So, at first glance, the story looks pretty good. U.S. domestic production is projected to hit around 51,000 tons, and that's a nice, steady climb. It looks like the efforts to mine more of this stuff at home are working. So far, so good, right? Well, here's where the story takes a turn. During that same time, the amount of rare earths the U.S. actually uses is expected to just explode, hitting 27,000 tons. Get this, that is triple what it was the year before. Our appetite for these elements is growing way, way faster than our ability to get them out of the ground. And this is the core of the paradox. Even though the U.S. is producing more than ever, its reliance on imports is set to jump all the way to 67%. So we're mining more, but we're becoming more dependent on other countries. That right there is the challenge. So where are all these imports coming from? Well, this chart makes it painfully clear. From 2021 to 2024, a massive 71% of U.S. rare earth imports came from one place, China. Relying that heavily on a single source, well, that's a huge strategic vulnerability. Okay, let's zoom out a bit for Section 3. We're going to map the global mines to really see who holds the keys to this whole critical mineral kingdom. When you look at the estimated production numbers for the whole world, the picture becomes incredibly clear. Out of a global total of about 390,000 tons, you can see the big players. The U.S. is in second place, which is strong, followed by allies like Australia. But one country is just in a league of its own. And a simple bar chart really just drives the point home. I mean, look at the scale here. China's projected production of 270,000 tons doesn't just put it in the lead, it absolutely dwarfs everyone else. It's more than 5 times what the United States produces. This isn't a competition, it's pure dominance. Now, if production is the story of today, then reserves, what's still in the ground, that's the story of tomorrow. And this comparison is stark. China is sitting on an estimated 44 million tons in reserves. The U.S., about 1.9 million. That highlights a major strategic imbalance for the long haul. So, why all the fuss? Let's jump into Section 4 and finally connect these weird rocks in the ground to the actual technology in your hands. This is where you see why this stuff really truly matters. Around the world, the single biggest use for rare earths is making incredibly powerful permanent magnets. After that, they're vital for things like catalysts, batteries, and special kinds of glass and ceramics. And look, these aren't some niche, fringe uses. They are foundational to modern tech. And what does that mean for you? Well, those permanent magnets are what make your phone vibrate. They're what make your earbuds work. They're absolutely critical for the giant generators inside wind turbines and the motors in electric cars, catalysts in your car's exhaust system, the batteries in a hybrid vehicle, even the superfine polish used to make your phone screen. It all comes back to these 17 elements. And all of this brings us to our final section, the race for resources. So, given everything we've just laid out, what's the path forward? How do you navigate a world like this? The strategy really has to be a four-pronged attack. First, you've got to boost domestic mining. Second, you have to get better at recycling this stuff from old electronics, even though the returns are still pretty small. Third, governments can build strategic stockpiles of the really important materials. And fourth, you pour money and brainpower into researching substitutes. But about that last point, there's a big dose of reality we have to swallow. This quote from the U.S. Geological Survey says it all. Substitutes are available for many applications, but generally are less effective. Basically, for the really high-tech stuff, there's often no perfect replacement for what these unique elements can do. So, the real takeaway from all of this is pretty simple. This isn't just a conversation about rocks or mining. It's fundamentally about securing the absolute essential building blocks of our entire technological future. Everything from green energy to national security depends on it. Which leaves us with one final big question to chew on. As our technology gets even more advanced and the global competition for resources gets even hotter, how are we going to make sure we have access to the rare, hidden materials that make everything possible?